Hello everybody and welcome to VFR. Today we are taking out our DHC-2 Beaver, doing a fire patrol for the U.S. Forest Service. Here we're in Redmond, Washington, here at the Redmond Air Center of the U.S. Forest Service. One of the big smoke jumper bases. A lot of activity goes on around from this field. So today we're going to be flying a fire patrol along the base of the Three Sisters out to the west of us. Should be a fun little low-level VFR flight. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the other missions that go on under the umbrella of forestry aviation. All right, so we're here on the ramp, and let's get fired up and set up here. All controls are working. We can go ahead and put our battery on, alternator on. Let's get nav light on as well. Fuel loadout today shouldn't be anything crazy. We're just going to keep half fuel. It should be more than enough for us. It's just us up here. Single pilot operations. We're going to go up to the center tank for fuel. We are going to turn our beacon on because we're getting ready to start out. Mixture full rich, props full forward, and we'll crack the throttle just a little bit, prepare for the engine start. Ignition over to both, and everything else is pretty good. Fuel cutoff switch is open. It's off. We're going to pump the wobble pump to get 5 psi. We need a little more in the fuel pressure. We can also prime with the prime switch down here. 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Go ahead and give this a shot. Not exactly roaring to life, but we are alive. Avionics on. And we will go ahead and get ready to taxi. Redmond traffic. Beaver 191 Zulu is taxiing to runway 11 via Delta Charlie. Redmond. And you can see off our right, we're just passing the air tanker ramps. That's where the big planes go to get filled up with their fire retardant substances when they are departing out. Good place for DC-6, something like that, if you wanted to hang out. We're taxiing over here on Delta. This scenery is pretty awesome. There's a bunch of them in the area, all by Bullfrog Sim on FlightSim.to, and I will link them in the description below, but highly recommend. The forest aviation ramp is very well built out. You've also got the commercial terminal on the other side of the airport is well done too. So that's freeware, all available on FlightSim.to. All right, so we're holding short here, runway 11. The weather today, wind is about 110 at 10 knots. So we're pretty well set up for this runway. On departure, we're going to fly runway heading them and make a left-hand turn to the north of the airport. And then we'll depart out the area out to the west. Flaps, we will set for takeoff. Mixture full rich. We can lean it out a little bit for field elevation. We're up at 3,000 feet right now. Props full forward. And we will open up the throttle when we get out there. The one nav aids that we're going to use, this is a totally VFR flight today, but we are going to tune in the Deschutes VOR, which is going to be a frequency. 117.6 is the frequency. So for whatever reason, we get turn around, we'll fly back to Deschutes, and Deschutes is going to be due west of the airport, so we'll fly east, heading 090, off of the VOR to get to the airport. Redmond traffic, Beaver 191 Zulu is taking runway 11. We're going to be departing out to the west, Redmond. Line up here, we're going to go full power. Tail wheel is up. We're relatively stable. That's about 60 knots there. We are capable of flight. And away we go. Gear can't come up even if we wanted to, but flaps will bring them up to the climb at position. Redmond traffic, Beaver 191 Zulu. We are at about 4,000 north of the field, departing out to the west. Redmond. Alright, so we're on our way. Clouds have thankfully lifted just a little bit on departure here. It's like they're hanging out around 6,000 feet. So our basic flight plan is pretty simple. We're going to fly out to there, out to the Three Sisters. And basically, we're going to try and ride the snow line or close to it. And just fly to make sure nothing, we don't see any smoke. We don't see anything suspicious. No flames, nothing. So we're getting out here over the trees. We're going to basically aim to keep 1,000 feet AGL or something like that. Just so we can keep a good eye on what's going on down there. Keep an eye out for any signs of trouble. Now I'm doing this flight and this video mostly because I like to collect Forest Service skins. Like this one. I have a lot of liveries. But there's a lot of really interesting missions that these aircraft do in real life. And if you look at a place like Redmond, and a lot of places, especially out on the west coast of the U.S., it's a big part of the aviation community over there. So obviously, first and foremost, kind of the highest profile and sexiest of these jobs is the big air tankers. I think that's what everyone thinks of when you see these big red and white and orange planes flying around. And that is a water bombing and aerial fire suppression is a role done by any number of airplanes. Beavers like this have been configured with water tanks. Helicopters also get strapped up with buckets sometimes. Everything from that up to 737s, DC-10s, DC-6s have done the role. So it's really cool and really diverse thing. And if you want to fly big planes VFR, that's definitely one of the ways that you get to do that. One of the more common ways that you see big planes that close to the ground on weird flight plans in civilian aviation. That said, that's not the only thing. There's also a lot of supporting flying that goes on with that. One of which is what's known as airstrike. Small planes, usually it's often a piston twin or a turboprop, like a King Air or a twin Cessna, will fly close to the ground low and act as almost a scout for the big planes, for the big tankers, especially on the big fires, because when fires are burning, there's a lot of reduced visibility. And out west, especially in the big wildfires out west, we have a lot of terrain like this. A lot of mountains, a lot of hills. So it is very, very dangerous, and it's important to kind of know what you're getting into. So that's where airstrike comes in. And so a lot of the time, you'll have teams of planes with a smaller plane leading a larger plane in visually to these, to drop water on, requested spots. Again, that can be done by often piston twins or turboprops, but they have a little bit more speed to help the big planes not run them over. That said, there's still a role for small Beavers and Cessnas like this that do a lot of other additional work beyond just beyond the actual fighting of the fires. For instance, what we're doing today, fire patrol. We're looking out, making sure that looking out the window and making sure that there's nothing burning that no one has seen yet. The sooner you can detect it, the better. Beavers are also used in some places as to support smoke jumpers. That is exactly what it sounds like. Basically, firefighters who are inserted into remote areas either by parachute or by other aerial means, helicopters, bush planes. Up north in Minnesota, they use seaplanes to get firefighters on the scene at remote fires quickly as possible. So they'll pack in everything they need to fight the fire and to do whatever they need to do. They can parachute. They can do lots of insertion methods. But it's a pretty cool job. And Redmond is actually one of the biggest smoke jumper bases in the U.S. They will travel all over to wherever the wildfires are. And so it's another fun little bush objective if you want to simulate that with your favorite plane of choice. DC-3 has been a popular one, maybe for obvious reasons. And we're just passing the Three Sisters now. Now, of course, beyond the firefighting and looking for fires, there's also a lot of other roles that these aircraft play, especially in data collection. A lot of airplanes can be fitted with cameras. There are a couple of King Airs that are fitted with infrared cameras and other different mapping type cameras. They could fly over areas, do really detailed surveys, and capture data for researchers, for scientists, for public officials to keep tabs on an environment. A lot of wildlife conservation efforts as well will use aircraft to support data collection on things like animal populations, especially in the U.S., a lot of wolves, bears, and things like that, where they have been often GPS tagged, and the researchers can kind of hunt down and see and track those populations easier from the air with air support. Another role for, again, a small little airplane like this, up to things like King Airs. Beavers have also been used to stock fish into ponds if they're remote areas where fish populations need to be, reintroduced. Airborne fish stocking, another use case of the Beaver, especially up north. We're going to try to clear this ridge. We'll loop around, check out the backside, and then start heading back towards Redmond. We'll expect to land on runway 11 for the time being. Now, all this is really just to say there are a lot of fun things that you can do with these painted airplanes that you get, especially out west in the U.S. Wildfire season is kind of any time it's dry, often the summer and into early fall. But these aircraft fly a lot, and another thing that I think is sometimes lost, especially in the sim community, is just how much flying is done for training purposes. Especially in unique roles like this, these skills are perishable and they need to be practiced. A lot of airliner pilots get their time in simulators, but just flying practice approaches in small planes like this is a big part of kind of the flying load that an outfit like this will go and do. So a couple things you can do to enhance your sim experience in this. It's actually really easy to place things like visual effects in the editor to create a scenery package. It's a little bit, it's got some nuance, but that's definitely something you can do. So if you do want to simulate some of those conditions, especially now that we have visual effects and particle effects and stuff like that, you can create some pretty big smoke plumes and simulate some of those lower visibility and local conditions. But other than that, search and rescue is another thing that often these agencies and flying outfits will participate in. So flying around looking for things from the air. Oftentimes, the true value of fixed wing assets in that role is the ability of time you can stay in the air. An airplane like a Beaver can hang out for over an area for 2-3 hours, whereas a helicopter will often be a lot more limited in terms of how far they can go and how long they can hang out. But planes can hang out forever, and that's really the big benefit of those. That said, that's another fun thing to do. If you can set up some kind of way to some scenery to go find, not give a nav aid for it, that can be a really fun way to hunt down something, do some VFR flying, do some bush flying, but also get to know an area a little bit better. Get to know the forests and the hills and the mountains. That's a really cool element of kind of close to the ground VFR bush flying. You get to know a lot about You get to recognize some landmarks that you don't get to see from 30,000 feet. And if we want a visual reference, there should be a Y in the road right about here. And we want to follow the right kind of straight road there. That'll take us right to the town of Redmond. Redmond Airport will be off to our right. So look at your maps too, if you get a little turnaround doing this. All right, so we've got the field right over here. We do need to make sure we change our engine. We ran down the middle pretty good to the point where we're sputtering a little bit. So we're going to feed off the rear tank for the moment. Fuel boost pump is on. We're going to keep the mixture leaned out for field elevation. Field's at about 3,500 feet today. We're at about 4,000, so we're doing all right. It's I think at 3,300. We're going to enter on the here on the 45 to the downwind for runway 1. We're going to have to loop around and do a little teardrop entry to the downwind for runway 11, going that way. Redmond traffic, Beaver 191 Zulu. We're entering a right downwind to land runway 11 Redmond. Alright, so we're going to bring power back a little bit. Flaps, we'll start bringing them out. Couple notches. Props full forward. Mixture is leaned a little bit for field elevation here at 3,000 feet or thereabout. Got the narrow runway today on 11. And we'll turn 45 degrees from the threshold out over the town. So there's the threshold in our rear view. I'm going to start our turn. I want to keep it at around 80 knots. And then we'll go full landing flaps. We'll go landing flaps, not full flaps. I don't think we need it for this. Coming around. There's the runway. Landing flaps. Overshot a little bit. Now we are in a tail dragger. I'm not sure which way you're supposed to land the Beaver or which way it prefers. We're going to try just get real slow and do a little 3-point touchdown. Whew. Just pulling back on the yoke. That came up a little hard. We knocked it into the ground. But we made it, and just gently applying brake as we vacate left. Redmond traffic, Beaver 191 Zulu, vacated runway 11, taxiing to parking via Delta, Redmond. Alright, so thank you all for coming along on this fun little VFR flight again. And there's a lot of things that you can do, and there's a lot of really cool sceneries out there available if you're interested in this kind of almost bush flying, but kind of in a realistic setting. So thank you all for coming along. If you have any questions, comments, places you want to see us fly, drop them in the comments section below. All the usual YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe. Always a pleasure to fly with y'all. Happy landings.